of Luke. And if you'll notice in this 15th chapter, all but just a few little spots are written in red if you have a red letter edition of the Bible. And we just call this the lost chapter. Now, I realize that it is a few minutes after noon, so I'll be brief. But there are three different things here in this chapter that are lost. At least that's what we've always preached. First of all, there was the parable of the lost coin. A woman had 10 coins. They were of some very great significance to her, and she lost one of them. And in order to find it, she lit a candle, a little lamp, little light, so she could see. They didn't have very many windows in the houses in those days. And she swept the house till she found it. It was lost. It was of great significance, and she found it. And when she found it, she had a party. Is that a good thing to do? Then we have the parable of the lost sheep in this chapter. The shepherd left the 99 to go after the one that was lost. The thing that you need to realize is the 99 were not left unguarded or in an unsafe place. They would have been left in a sheepfold, somewhere where they will be protected. But that 100 sheep, that one lamb, the reason that the shepherd was so intense on finding the one that was lost is because he had to give an account for all of the sheep. We find a reference in the Old Testament to where the only thing that the shepherd could bring back to the owner of the sheep was a piece of an ear or a piece of a leg to prove that that animal had been taken by a wild beast. Otherwise, he had to pay for it. Otherwise, it was on his account. And so there was an intensity about looking for that lost sheep. And then that is in the first part of the chapter. The Bible tells us that there's joy in heaven over one sinner that repents. There's a party going on. And then the story, the last one that I want to talk to you about here is the parable of the lost son. We talk about these two sons of this wealthy man, and the younger of them not being blessed with the wisdom of years. And the younger of them takes his inheritance early and goes into a far country, far away from any influence at home, into an idolatrous place, into a place where Gentiles were not Jews, into a place where there was wine, women, and song, and there wasted his substance on riotous living. Then comes to his senses. Lord, help us to come to our senses if we are wandering. But he came to his senses and he said, the hired hands got better than I got back home. I'm going home. So we have a lost sheep, a lost coin, and a lost son. And every time that the law that is lost is found, there's a party that goes on. There's a party that takes place. And I want to talk to you for just a few minutes about this idea of being still at home and lost anyway. The Bible talks about an elder son and said his elder son was in the field, and as he came and drew nigh to that house, he heard music and dancing. This is the older boy that stayed home. This is the one that didn't go out on a limb, didn't blow the inheritance on wine, women, and song. And he called one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And he said to him, "Thy brother is come, and thy father hath killed the fatted calf, because he hath received him safe and sound." Notice this brother. He was angry and would not go in. Therefore came his father out and entreated him. And he answering said to his father, "Lo, these many years do I serve thee. Neither transgressed I at any time thy commandment, and yet thou never gavest me a kid, that I might make merry with my friends. But as soon as this thy son was come, which hath devoured thy living with harlots, and thou hast killed for him the fatted calf." And he said unto him, "Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. It was meet that we should make merry and be glad, for this thy brother was dead and is alive again, and was lost and is found." Notice that next to the last verse, "Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine." Staying at home and yet being lost. Father, would you speak to our hearts today, and would you help us to draw near to you? And we thank you for it in Jesus' name. It's not difficult to paint a picture of this younger son who went away, and according to the reading, the elder son tells the father that, "Lo, these many years." So it kind of gives me the idea that that younger son had been away for quite some time. He'd been away for maybe several years and had wasted a substantial living. But he comes home, and there's joy and there's merriment because he's learned his lesson. I don't believe he ever wanted to go away again. And he knew what was out there. He knew where he'd been. He knew what had happened to him. But he was home now. He was in the Father's house and in the Father's care. Not hard to paint a picture of that. Some of us have been there. Some of us understand. But then there's this younger son, there's this elder son who never left home. And the Bible gives us a picture here. He wasn't so lazy, he was working. He was in the field. And coming in from the field, heard the merriment that was going on. He kept all the rules, never broke the commandments, was in this relationship with the Father of being at home, working in the field, keeping all the rules. But when you look beyond what is on the outside and look on the inside of this elder son, he had a nasty attitude. He didn't care that his long-lost brother was come home. He didn't care that his brother had nearly starved to death. He didn't care that his younger brother smelled like a pig pen when he got home, but he got a bath, and he got a fresh robe, and he got shoes on his feet, and a ring of significance on his finger, and they killed the fatted calf, And the Bible said this elder son heard the sound of music and dancing. There's a party going on. But he's so self-centered. He's so caught up in what he's doing. He's so caught up in the fact that he never left home. He never got on drugs. He never got on alcohol. He never ran with loose women. He never did all that stuff. I've kept all the rules. And yet you're having a party for this boy. He's at home. He's been home all the time. He never left home. He was keeping his father's rules. But I'm telling you, something was wrong on the inside. Because if you pick this boy apart and look at him, this elder brother was jealous. This elder brother was self-centered. This elder brother didn't care. He didn't love his younger brother like he ought to. I want to tell you folks, just a simple little message here today before you go home. There's a lot of folks that are in the church. And I'm not just talking about our church. I'm talking about in the church world. They're not drinking and well, they used to call them juke joints when I was growing up. They're not going in the dives of the world. They're not going around doing all these things. They're at home. But somehow or another in their hearts, there's something that's just not right. And when the time comes and there is an opportunity for that is on the inside of them to be exposed, what is exposed is not a pure heart. It's not clean thoughts. It's not good thoughts. It's not love. It's not sympathy or empathy. But what is exposed on the inside is something that is just as ugly as what was in that younger son that took him away. Oh God, today we've kept the rules. I've been in church. I've paid my tithes. I've done all that I was supposed to do. I've showed up when I was supposed to. I've been there. Listen, that's all good and that's all well, but how is it on the inside? How is it with our attitude? How is it with the way we feel about one another? Do we really love one another? Do we really care about one another? Amen. You know, that's one thing I've appreciated about this church. I found out people care. I love that. People care. People get in trouble, all they got to do is make mention of it, and somebody's going to pray. Somebody's going to get some food together if it's needed. Boy, that's one thing we do better than anybody else. I mean, we can drag up something to eat here in a heartbeat. I mean, you know, I don't know that nobody's ever explained the meaning of finger foods to West Green Church of God. Bring finger foods. That's stuff you can eat with your fingers, like chips and hot dogs and hamburgers. And no, not here. Finger foods, okay, hot dogs and hamburgers, baked beans, coleslaw, potato salad, and all the fixings. You know, you can't eat that with your fingers. You know, desserts, you know. We're supposed to eat cookies and chips and brownies and stuff with your fingers. No. Pudding and cakes and, oh boy, you know. And I can't tell you how many times somebody has come along and said, hey, preacher, well, if you do me this way, I know you do one another that way. Yeah. How would you like this? How would you like some of this? But really, think about it. Do we really care? Do we really love one another? How is it with us in our hearts? When somebody's put up, somebody set forward, is it possible that we could still be at home and still be lost? Is it possible that we could keep all the rules and still have something wrong on the inside? Simple little devotional thought this morning. It's not a sermon. We've been here a while today and we've worshiped and we've prayed and we've tried to bear one another's burdens to the Lord in prayer, and all of that's what we ought to do. And so this little simple thought today, I'll let you take home with you. Are you still at Father's house? But is there something on the inside that's not what it ought to be? You think about that. Think about that this afternoon. And then come back tonight at 6 o'clock. And let's have church. Amen. Stand with me if you will.